What does the fox say?
Hello once again, my chickadees. Game & Chick is back with another review. Before we get started, I'd like to give a big thank you to the folks over at Sparks Forge for providing me the game and sponsoring this video to make this review possible. Thank you so much. So now with that out of the way, let's go! Untamed Tactics is a brand new tactical RPG that is developed by Grumpy Owl Games and published by Ravenage Games. With a plethora of tactical RPGs on the market right now, with titles like Tactics Ogre Reborn, Arcadian Atlas, Midnight Suns, etc., Grumpy Owl Games decides to tell the gaming community to hold my potions. But did they succeed in casting a spell that continues to heal the tactical RPG genre? Or is this a case of being a game over before the game is even finished? Let's find out. Story. Untamed Tactics is a tactical RPG set in a procedural world of colorful animals. Relive the legend of Greycoat's escape into the Untamed Wilds in a tale of lost honor and finding a new home as you fight. Relive the legend of Greycoat's escape into the Untamed Wilds in a tale of lost honor and finding a new home as you fight, talk, and think your way through this beautifully illustrated adventure. Join Greycoat, a valiant soldier yearning for redemption, whose memories of the events of the past may not be as vivid as it once was. Together with a dynamic ensemble of fierce and diverse animal companions, Lynn the fox and Mortimer the chameleon, you venture forth into the treacherous yet mesmerizing wilds. Do you have what it takes to discover and uncover the many mysteries that surround this world, its inhabitants, and the heroes of this world? Or will it be left to just another long-forgotten memory? The choice in your actions will determine the fate of many. Are you ready for it? Gameplay. What do you get when you mix furries and hours of intense tactical RPG combat? Untamed Tactics. No, that's not a knock on the game at all, far from it. Being an all-animal-themed RPG adventure is actually a breath of fresh air from normal run-of-the-mill medieval-themed games where it's all about humans versus humans for the 100th time. The all-animal-themed type of game sort of reminds me of titles such as the 1950s noir-era game called Black Sad. But instead of being a detective-solving kitty in this particular game, or teaming up with Eddie Valiant to find out who framed Roger Rabbit, you're instead pushed into a universe that is filled with adventurous tales that are inspired by the popular tabletop known as Untamed Feral Factions from 2019. Well, that's a relief. For a second I thought we were going to have to put some of these freaks inside of the dip, like the poor little shoe friend. Although, I still might have to dip the developers of the NES Who Framed Roger Rabbit game now that I think about it. I can never forgive them for that atrocity. But we're getting way off topic. Let's go back to the actual good game here, shall we? Thanks. On your journey through the world of Untamed Tactics, you will journey with a warrior who seeks revenge and a chance to redeem themselves. But for some reason, their memory might not be as up to snuff as Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man. Nope, he won't be throwing a matchbox in the air and counting them all in one go. Because for some reason, Greycoat's memory is something out of a Miss Cleo reading. Blurred, confused, and all out of whack. While this is very strange indeed, it's just one of the many narratives that unfold as the game continues on that keeps you engaged and interested to see just what happens to these characters as they begin their journey, and where they end up at the very end. For better or for worse. If you got thrown off for a minute because of the animal theme, don't be. Because there's far more to this cat's meow than meets the eye. Pushing your way through the chilling and divine-looking areas with your animal companions, who have pulled a "you have my sword" Aragorn style to join you, you will begin to see how the game actually starts taking shape overall. Whether it be the way each chapter in the game splits itself into multiple different experiences with various narratives at play, new friendships that are made, villainous enemies forged by your own actions and inactions, exploring the awesome-looking world the devs created here, compiled entirely of 2D, giving it that sleek, smooth, and hand-drawn-like effect that's extremely pleasing to the eye, and ending with the actual game combat that keeps you strategizing for hours on end in order to find the best plan of attack based off of a specific enemy you encounter. That's right, folks. You can't just sit back and scratch your belly, eat Doritos, and burp your little head off in this game and expect results. No way. Instead, you will need to actually sit up and pay attention, because some of these battles that take place will get pretty intense. This is because mainly as you push through the story and the history of Greycoat, you get a choice. This choice is between campaign mode and a mode properly labeled as nightmare mode. No, it's not that type of nightmare mode where you wake up naked in a bottle of jelly beans, you weirdo! But it's more so down to the changes in gameplay mechanics that make it live up to its name of nightmare. Starting off with your campaign mode, if you are a big fan of narrative-driven stories that have mystery after mystery unravel before your very eyes, or are looking to get engaged in a story that can take you to the edge of your seat, when hearing a tale of Greycoat's hardships in uncharted lands, escaping the horrible terrors of war that he warns his grandchildren of in his story War of the Wilds, taking on the ferocious Bonefang clan, exploring and discovering the rumors and history of the House of Eyes, and watching your back around every corner because you never know where treachery may lie. However, the campaign mode is in pretty stark contrast to what is known as nightmare mode, if I have to be honest. Well, sorta in a way. While you're fully woven into the driven narrative style of the campaign mode and its ongoing story, in nightmare mode, the game lends itself more to the side of the roguelite genre of game. That offers you two things really. One being an increased level of difficulty, and if you aren't familiar with it, in a roguelite, should you die or make mistakes, the land, enemy varieties, and placement, your character, everything has the chance of resetting completely. Normally, this would have me like an angry panda in games, and something that makes me smash people's computers and keyboards, or kicks over their shopping cart at the grocery store. But to be fair, when it's actually done right, it can actually be extremely beneficial to a game and its longevity for replayability. Luckily for Untamed Tactics, the latter is the case here, and the roguelite nature of this title offers you a great dive of not only Greycoat's past, but continues to make your adventure through this world both unpredictable and rewarding, in both increasing your personal player skill through trial and error, but as well as learning to properly utilize the player progress system, which is key to fixing your mistakes and learning how to get by sections of the game that may be giving you a tad bit of an issue. The game is not easy, not at all. But it's not as tough as nails either, like some roguelite platformers are that seem hellbent on ticking you off rather than wanting you to have fun. However, Untamed Tactics wants you to have fun, and it's definitely accomplished with its wide variety of gameplay mechanics. What? You thought I was just going to forget about those? Don't make me pull a Jenny on you and say, what, are you stupid or something? Because dang it, I will, okay? Alright, enough jabbering on, let's get to the further meat and potatoes of this title. The gameplay mechanics of Untamed Tactics offer you as the player a unique way to strategize and adapt to your own player skill as you begin learning the basic mechanics, strengths and weaknesses of characters, and the right amount of potent strategies to implement into your combat regiment. Taking control of a trio of characters in battle, you must determine the best strategies for attacking an enemy based on an enemy's placement on the map. Why is this? Well, because just like in any normal tactical game, you can move around your fighting arena using squares for both movement and your attacks. For example, for every turn your character gets, you'll be able to move within a specific diameter based off the square selection and placement on the ground, and from there, you can choose which attack your character currently has, and if that ability's attack radius falls within the range of your enemy, you may initialize that attack against your foe. This rings true for healing nearby heroes in your party should they be in range of your AoE heal, or short range and long range attacks. Determining which party setup, though, however, is going to be key, which is why the class system is overall a very important mechanic. Because should you have the wrong party setup for a tough battle, chances are you're going to get your butt whipped badly. Yes, even more so than myself getting my absolute butt kicked in the game Thunder Ray on the very last boss. Yikes, that was completely embarrassing. Oh, come on, I blocked that! Come on, get up, you idiot! Get up! Okay, punch, punch, punch. No! Gosh freaking dang it! My go-to usually, at least early on for battles, was a combination trio of Doctor, Assassin, Augmented. This is mainly because you get the best of all worlds. You got power, mid-range, and a healer for more rounded tough battles. It won't save you every time, but it's enough to get you through your fair share of encounters. Plus, you have parlay cards as well, to further add to your arsenal. But we'll get to those very soon. What was that? Parlay? No, I'm not invoking the right of parlay like this is Pirates of the Caribbean, you goof. Because I wouldn't let you invoke it anyways. I just make you walk the plank, you scurvy! Don't get too excited though about movement and placement because, again, just like in other tactical RPGs on the market, you too get a limit to how many moves you can make. While other games your limit could be on spaces left to move around with or mana used to move a specific amount of times, here in Untamed Tactics, you use a resource called Power. Using Power, you can move your character to a strategically planned section of the map, or even use Power towards actions allowed per move, should you use Power for a long-range attack, close range, or even a healing ability. This means every single time you move or perform an action, Power is used, giving you a limited amount of resources to use per turn, thus making you survey the map, look for items to pick up and loot, right time to heal a party member, moving your injured character away from battle to buy them time to heal, or playing possum and letting the enemy get close by defending. Basically, you're He-Man and you have the power. The power is yours! Wait a second. Oops, that's Captain Planet. My bad. So what if this parlay I mentioned? How does this benefit your normal strategy-based combat, and how can you use it to your advantage? What? You don't know? Well, I guess I'll let you in on that little nugget. So, dig on this. Parlay in itself feels like a mechanic that has been used in the past for the RPG genre, like a Mandela effect. You could have sworn you've seen or heard something like it before, but can't for the life of you remember where or when. However, that feeling quickly fades when you jump into the nooks and crannies of just what this game mechanic actually is. And to me, it feels pretty innovative, especially for the tactical RPG genre. Instead of just having selectable abilities for a new mechanic, here in this title, you get a different take on a card-based system, as seen in titles like Midnight Suns. Sure, you get cards to choose from in the parlay system, but they're based off speech-based attributes and affliction to your enemies. Yes, just like Naruto's Talk no Jutsu, where he can make thousands of people come back to life just by talking to the villain who actually did the killing themselves. Stupid Naruto. I'd like to see you try that crap against Boo, see how that works out for ya. Once again, we're off topic. Oops. Well, kind of. Using the parlay system, you have multiple forms of choices to make, these being Heartbreaking Tale, Seductive Remark, Scare, Constructive Criticism, and Sales Pitch. Each of these selections offering their own benefit to your characters, with up to 3 random parlay cards being chosen at a time based off your parlay meter in a battle. For example, Heartbreaking Tale can deal a good amount of physical damage to your enemy. Seductive Remark can remove a weaker foe from the battlefield because they think you're ugly or they have a chance to become your ally. Further expanding the cards, you also have Constructive Criticism, which can deal heavy mental damage, which is pretty damn accurate for the state of Twitter at the moment. And then finally, you have the Sales Pitch. I know what you're thinking. No, you don't morph into a greasy salesman and tell people, "I'd buy that for $1." Nope. Instead, you have the opportunity to steal a small amount of gold from them after inflicting some minor mental damage. Combine these parlay cards alongside the class system and abilities of your trio of party members, and you've got so many options at your disposal to pick and choose from, and figure out which way to approach combat is the best route for you, whether it's a regular enemy or even boss fights. Even with all that, would you believe me if I told you the sky used to be gray and not blue? What? You don't believe me? Well, just go look at old pictures. It was gray back then. All joking aside for realsies, even beyond the main combat skill set and even the Wall of Wisdom that lets you equip upgrades like Haggler for extra gold increases, you then still have combat that goes beyond just straight up kicking someone in their dumb, ugly face. The other feature I am referring to is the environment itself. Yep, that's right. The environment in this game can be both beneficial to you or a detriment, depending on how well you keep your cool or analyze your surroundings. That will determine whether you're able to back your enemy into a corner and position yourself at a proper manner that allows you to push the enemy into hazardous traps, and harnessing ancient powers to gain the advantage whenever you feel you can get the upper hand, and turn the tide of the battle. Just be like me and take an hour to decide on what I want to do. That always works.
What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? God damn it, what do you want?
However, just like a box of Pringles, once you pop, the fun don't stop. Even beyond your starter characters and classes, you will always be presented with even more choices and more characters to choose from on the roster of selective characters the further you advance in the narrative and story. With no character feeling the same as another, and with each one by themselves feeling unique as far as their options go, you will be able to equip each character that's playable in the game with both very unique runes and abilities that gives them further power in battle that you may not have had in your party as of that moment. This is why it's key, even if you don't like a specific character, to set out into the wild and test out each character by temporarily grinding enemies to learn about your character's abilities, earn upgrades, or using a parlay card to potentially earn yourself another ally to your team. The amount of creativity to fun ratio is pretty astronomical if I'm going to be honest, because just when you think you're out, they pull you right back in with new ways to play or new strategies to implement into your next battle. I know you guys are still wondering, even though you're seeing the dang footage on the screen now. I can tell you're all wondering, is that a rabbit? Yes it is. A very elderly rabbit who has seen some things. Just like the Japanese cat video that has the cat that sees the future and the meaning of life after a flower is put on their head.
The prophecy is true.
See? I don't just make jokes about rabbits who framed Roger Rabbit for nothing. There's always a method to my madness. Well, sometimes, because 90% of my fart jokes are just done on the fly. Like this one. You get it? See? On the fly? While the combat may be great and evolve as you play, starting you from a weaker character with maybe classes like Soldier who are good for close ranged, but then as you progress and get stronger, being able to change classes to Augmented or Thief on top of having a meta-type system that further gives you the opportunity to add upgradable abilities to your Wall of Wisdom, making you near mid-game to end-game a force to be reckoned with. Even beyond that, one of the most intriguing things to me I think that people may overlook is the game's artistic direction in regards to the art and environmental design. I can always appreciate a good-looking game, sure, but there's something special about games that most gamers consider low budget just because it's an indie title. But that gives it a unique appeal for me, which is why I love indie titles and a main reason why my channel has a large focus on showcasing developer indie titles and giving them the spotlight that they deserve. Indie developers are not afraid to try new styles of art, design, or even gameplay mechanics, which is something that can't be said for a lot of the bigger companies. Heck, there's a game about a squirrel with a gun and a crab fighting game. I'd like to see EA do something like that. Again, as I just spoke about, the art direction chosen by Grumpy Owl Games for Untamed Tactics was the perfect choice in this scenario. While yes, a lot of indie games nowadays tend to go for a 2D look as a cost-cutting measure, others tend to do it to give their game a bit more character or to make it stand out from the rest of the pack. Just like Untamed Tactics does here with their hand-drawn 2D graphics. Say what you want about 2D graphics, that you hate it or it seems lazy, but not me. When something is hand-drawn or even looks hand-drawn, for me it gives it that special look of authenticity that makes the details, the coloring, and even the characters themselves stand out and feel alive, giving it and them their own unique personalities in the process. You will notice this yourself as you progress through the main narrative, as you travel the land and their treacherous and dangerous terrains, as you pass through the ruthless Stranglevine Ridge, the advanced civilization of New Gizmodan, meet various creatures that have their own unique personalities, and not feeling like a copy and paste, synergize each character with one another to properly optimize ability combos for intense combat and figuring out when is the right time to use parlay. Screw up just once and it's game over, man! Game over! The stickler I feel though for many people will be in the game's difficulty level when it comes to the learning curve. There's a lot to digest here in Untamed Tactics, so much so that for a casual player that may be interested in this game because they love animals and decide they wanted to give it a go, they may be slightly turned off at the fact that it's just not a simple pick up and play title. Which I can honestly see how it would get pretty overwhelming, especially when managing multiple characters beyond Greycoat, with characters such as Lynn the Fox or even Mortimer the Chameleon. Oh, it's just 3 characters at a time, that's not so bad, they will tell themselves. But then when they get into the Wall of Wisdom upgrades, each character's unique runes and abilities, each character's different classes, and their different builds that you make to buff each character, using parlay cards, etc., all of these being used at one time and memorized can be a pretty daunting task for newcomers to the tactical RPG genre. Which is a bummer, yes, but I feel as long as people can stick it out for 40 minutes to an hour at the very least, they will get over that scary hurdle of being overwhelmed by the game's mechanics. But who am I to say? I still get overwhelmed by the feeling of having to go to the toilet after eating Taco Bell, even though I know it will mess me up every single time. I'll never learn, will I? The The game's narrative itself, if you're wondering, is broken up into multiple chapters, with each chapter acting as its own standalone adventure, with every single one offering their own unique adventure and journey that combines and connects linear storytelling and the main game's campaign with procedurally generated illustrations and even new animal friends as well. This again is in stark contrast to the other RPGs on the market, like the previously mentioned Tactics Ogre and Arcadian Atlas, that have you go on a long, straightforward journey that goes through a connected story with no real cuts in between them, between missions, other than a hub. Sure, they may break into small sequences here and there, or even operate off a chapter system, but Untamed Tactics, with its chapter system being standalone tactical adventures, I feel sets it in its very own category away from those other games. Does this mean that this is a better game than both of those? Well, that's honestly subjective, and not for me to proclaim as a fact. More so, I just say that it definitely makes it stand out a lot more than it would have if it had just copied the same style and presentation that they both have done previously. Talking about a chapter system like this makes it seem like a hugely long and exhausting game, doesn't it? As if you're heading out in this tedious 100-hour-plus slog of a game. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Both modes in this title, one being story and adventures with roguelike elements, you will traverse through 4 different chapters, each chapter allowing you to create your own unique character builds with abilities required to come up with new strategies to use based off of the difficulty level increased by chapter. 4 chapters, you say? 4! Oops, ouch. Sorry, no, not that type of 4, this isn't golf. But yes, there's only 4 chapters in this game's story mode. This might lead some to believe that it could be a really, really short game. Which, it kind of is and kind of isn't. I know that doesn't make any sense, but try keeping up with me here. Sure, it's not as long and drawn out as some other RPGs on the market are today, but I feel it hovers right smack in the middle of the balancing scale of too short and too long. You won't beat this game in 2 hours in an extremely short time period, but you won't take 50 hours to get through it either. Much like stolen porridge from a family of bears, it's just right. If you're a fan of the Banner Saga titles, then I'm pretty sure you're going to end up liking this one no matter what. If you aren't though, then it will be a toss-up. Honestly, on that topic, I feel like having a shorter and balanced player time is actually pretty beneficial to a title like Untamed Tactics. Why? Well, for me personally, if I play an RPG and it lasts anywhere from 50 to 60 hours, typically by the time I'm done with it, I rarely will go back and actually revisit it and replay it, because either I just don't have the time to do it due to other work-related projects I'm working on, or all the cool stuff happened on my first playthrough, which will lessen the impact I feel the second go around. While that might not necessarily be the case with RPGs like nostalgia-filled Final Fantasy X that I can play 100 times and not get bored, it's not a stance that I hold for a lot of games in a similar genre. This is where the shorter length balance comes into play as a strength for Untamed Tactics in my opinion. Sure, the game isn't super lengthy, but because of the roguelike nature of this title, it changes every single playthrough, making each time you replay the game feel like a new experience. Again, this is thanks to the evolving nature of Nightmare Mode. This guarantees multiple things. For one, every single playthrough will be different in the sense that enemy placement changes, map variations, and location of loot, and then alongside that, because of different difficulties based off of different enemies or the replacements, you will again have to lean forward more into the character customization and each of the class builds for your party, which offers dozens more ways to play the game without your multiple playthroughs feeling like a trudge or a slog or even a chore. Nope, it makes you want to seek out another go. And that to me says a lot about its replayability. It's definitely something that's missing overall in the gaming world. Most of the time when you play a game, it's just, oh, you can replay it, just go back and finish the 100 fetch quests. Yeah, okay, let me walk 2 hours to a character named Bob, have him tell me I need to deliver this pebble to Steve in a neighboring town, only for Steve to say that the pebble is green, he prefers blue, then having to go back to tell Bob that the pebble isn't the right color, so you're told to go find Sage of Aura, which will send you on a quest to kill 3 beasts for their feathers, and then finally using those feathers to conjure up a potion for the sage, which our reward ends up being a dye in order to change the color of the pebble of the quest that we started 6 hours ago. Phew! Yeah, you can tell I have some deep issues. I apologize. The game becomes really intense when you end up in battles that put your back against the wall and really makes you think. For most matches, you're usually even in manpower in regards to your foes, such as 3 versus 3 or even down by 1 like a 4 versus 3 fight in the enemy's favor. But other times, oh man, you're outnumbered in what feels like a 2-to-1 battle, with the enemies outmanning you by multiple hostiles. This is when you have to buckle down and put all that you have learned so far into motion with attacks and their combination of moves in conjunction with using the right parlay cards at their moment of need. Strategize to get around this by playing the long game and using Lynn's poisonous blade to poison enemies early on into the fight. Then, as the fight drags on, let them slowly die from that poison as you poke and skewer away at their health little by little. This also gives you a chance to pull off a double heal should you get a momentary lapse in combat that frees you up to double heal in order to heal multiple characters or your whole party in one fell swoop. Successfully pulling off that strategy will allow you to get a jump on the enemy to defeat them and get rewards such as tomes that give you extra benefits like speed increase, or even an increase in overall critical attack damage. There's just so much depth to this game's combat and its mechanic structure that I could go on for over an hour just going over it all. But at that point, I'd probably just end up sounding like a teacher from Charlie Brown, and you wouldn't like that, would ya? But not everything is sunshine and gumdrop buttons. Nope, sadly there are a few things that might get on people's nerves. While I personally may not find them annoying, some people just may. For one thing, the game moves, as stated previously, by chapter, and each chapter feels standalone. Yes, the story can and does connect, but it can feel like it doesn't flow as properly as other RPGs do, with their seamless chapter transitions. It can make it feel a tad bit disjointed, even if you are engaged in the narrative. That's actually good, but when something disrupts the flow of the narrative, for some people, it can be a bit off-putting. Another issue I see people having is the game's length, which I also touched on previously, and I will again in my wrap-up. The game is not a long game at all, but it's not a Call of Duty campaign mode short either that lasts 3 to 4 hours. This is still at its core an RPG after all, and you can still spend hours just on one chapter trying to figure out the best way to make your move to beat a specific boss battle. But at the same time, you will not be dropping 40 hours plus into this game before seeing the in-game credits either. Now, obtaining 40-hour gameplay time is possible should you want to try and experience everything it has to offer, but it's completely optional to go that route, and overall minimal amount of time is required to see the in-game credit scene. So if you're fine with a good 8-hour playthrough session, if you do well and know what you're doing that is, then you'll be happy with it. Otherwise, I can see people complaining about it. Which, duh, it's the internet. The same people that whine about wanting a specific genre of game because the industry keeps making the same thing over and over. Then when that company makes a new IP, they complain, don't buy it, making that new IP flop. Which then in turn makes that company go back to their money getters and leaving those same fans who didn't support the title say, man, I wish they made games like this again. Make up your mind, peeps. Or at the very least, start supporting the new gameplay ideas and creativity of the devs when they try something new and outside of the box. I mean, isn't that what made the 90s and 2000s gaming great in the first place? New and fresh ideas that push the industry forward? I'm just saying. But enough of my ramble, let's wrap this puppy up, shall we? Overall, at the end of the day, Untamed Tactics was both a surprise and not really a surprise, if that makes sense at all. Yeah, it might not be the most perfect game in the world, with issues like sometimes character dialogue and text boxes can get glitchy early on in the game, which is rare, but it happened a few times. The game's difficulty can also be seen as a detriment due to the random spikes of it mid-game, and even the length of the game itself being a tad bit on the short side in a straight playthrough in your first main run. Those can be bummers for sure, but do I feel that they're enough to give this game a lower grade or tell people to pass on it? Absolutely not. Even with its shortcomings, Untamed Tactics makes up for it with the gripping story with depth and challenges to overcome, allowing you to dive deep into the trials and tribulations of General Greycoat, learn your environments and toxic trap layout to figure out the best way to get a jump on an enemy and their cronies, manage your wall of wisdom in between chapters to gain new abilities, new strengths, passive abilities, and other upgrades to further bolster the strengths of your character, class builds that let you switch characters from a doctor, soldier, thief to other builds such as assassin, alchemist, and augmented that give you abilities such as lightning claw, grappling hook, use preparation with Lynn that increase your attack speed, or use her poisonous blades as a thief to deal extra damage. Likewise, with characters like Greycoat, you'll be able to equip a build of soldier and get aim and shoot attacks, as well as being able to self-heal when you get a chance. My point being in stating these things is that the game has depth, engaging and very intricate combat, intense strategic moments, dozens of different builds for each character that's only enhanced by the use of parlay cards and their abilities, and then fully capped off with amazing hand-drawn 2D animations and backgrounds. It makes for a really great time, and I would recommend this title to anyone that wants not only a good challenge, but for others too that just enjoy a good old tactical RPG. So with all this having been said, my verdict is clear. Game & Chick says buy now.
What does the fox say?
Hey everyone, thanks for watching! I really hope you enjoyed that review, and I look forward to bringing more to you in the coming future. For new people, feel free to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like or share, and for people already subscribed, make sure to hit that notification bell so that you do not miss out on any future content uploaded. Also, feel free to click on my other reviews linked above, because